Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is a happy Friday morning. What an interesting week. And there's two ways to learn lessons. You can learn them for yourself through your own experiences, which there's some merit and some value to that. Or you can learn from other people's experiences, from their failures and successes. So today's discussion for prepping is going to be about that, learning and learning. So let's get to it. So specifically, I'm talking about yesterday. Gaza, which is a territory within Israel or next to Israel. In fact, the whole Israel thing is a huge question. But some terrorists fired rockets, missiles from Gaza into Tel Aviv. And it really reminded me of why we need to be prepping all the time. So for everybody out there who's studied history, knows about Israel, the foundation of the country, who did it, the whys, the wheres, the whats, how the Palestinians have been displaced, why this huge battle exists. I'm familiar with all of that. I don't want to make that part of this discussion. This isn't going to be about Jews and are they the real Jews and is this the Holy Land or what. It doesn't matter. But I am familiar with all of that discussion stuff. I want to focus instead on the need to be prepared and how Israel demonstrates to the world how they are always ready because they're surrounded by enemies, literally surrounded by their enemies. They haven't been the most friendly people and they haven't been treated with very much love and affection. But I want to talk about the prepping angle, right? Israel is constantly under attack, under threat of attack by terrorists, by terror nations, by terror cells. And because of that, they're a lot like America. And I want to say the reason or how they're a lot like America is what stops Israel from being invaded, attacked, overrun. Basically, what saves Israel from destruction on a daily basis is the people's willingness to fight to defend themselves. And the fact that they are prepared at a moment's notice, right? The gas masks I have in case we have an NBC attack here, I've told you guys they're the Israeli masks, right? They're the most affordable, and I think they're actually the most used. The Israeli people practice with them. They have gas mask drills all the time because they need to be prepared. So their masks are designed very well. They work very well, and I recommend buying them. Over at the club, we have at the preparedmind.club, we have gas masks or at least contacts to get them. But the Israelis are surrounded by their enemies. They're always being threatened. And the only thing that's protecting them, like America, is the fact that they're armed. The citizens in Israel are armed. And they're prepared to take up arms and fight anybody, right, that comes at them. Unlike America, where if you carry a concealed weapon, right, you're feared by those who know, and the police are suspicious of you. In Israel, it's a whole different world. They're much closer to shit hitting the fan, because at any moment, and quite often it happens, they get thrown into these situations, right? So, but that's kind of a similarity between the United States of America and Israel. What's stopping us from being invaded by the Russians, the Chinese, by any country is the fact that behind every blade of grass is a pissed off American wanting to kill somebody just for daring to come over here, right? So we're prepared to defend our country. Unfortunately, Americans aren't prepared to defend their rights the same way. And the only one that can attack our rights is our own government. Other nations, they can't attack our rights. They can't use law enforcement. Other nations, it's a whole different story. Everyone would drop everything and all of our dissimilarities and fight off other nations. Or at least the red blood Americans would. So, what's interesting about Israel is they had these missiles shot at them yesterday. Out of Gaza, into Tel Aviv, and so they have a Iron Dome, it's a missile defense system, and they track where the missiles came from, and then they will respond, right? They retaliate, the Israelis do. So we learn a lot of lessons from Israel about human nature, the way they act, shit hitting the fan, defense, life, death, hatred, love, all of those things. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of love for Israel the way some people believe they need to bow down to them like they're some kind of special people. I don't really believe that. I just don't. Like it's such a huge subject to get into. The Israelis have a caste system, and it's very negative. If you don't have the right name or family or blood, then you're treated poorly. You know, and over here in America, we're all supposed to be even and the same, right? We're supposed to want equality. In Israel, they don't have that. They have other things, an old-style caste system, and there's a lot of hypocrisy over there. So that's some negatives about Israel, but I don't want to delve into that. I'm sorry if we're even starting. Let's get into the lessons that the Israelis teach us about prepping. The number one lesson that they teach us is that shit hitting the fan, it can happen at any second. You don't get a warning. You don't get clues. It just happens. Now over here we look for clues and we look for signs, we look for indicators, but when a terror attack happens, they don't send out flyers, and you don't get a call on the phone or a text message, hey, get ready, 6 o'clock, it's coming. It just happens. Like 9/11, it just happens, right? Everyone's caught off guard, something big happens, people die, shit goes bad. That's a great lesson to learn from the Israelis. So in order to mitigate that damage, they do two things. They are prepared. Like I said, gas mask, weapons, and they have a plan. That is, when they're attacked in a terror attack, whether it's missiles or a bombing or people with AK-47s coming after them, they have a response plan, right? That response could be bug out. That response could be go to a safe room in the house. That response could be grab weapons, muster, and respond with force. You know, they have plans, and it's a great lesson to learn from Israel. Unlike America, Israel, they know and they believe and they understand they're going to be attacked any second just for being there. In America, we know that Antifa would like to attack us. We know that the likes of AOC and other communists in government, that they would love to pass a law and do a gun roundup or an undesirable American roundup. We know they'd like to, but it's really not going to come at us the way it is. The Israelis are much more under pressure, constant threat. And they haven't broken down and given up and quit and become a bunch of spineless weenies. They've stepped up to it. So it's a great lesson for us to learn from Israel is step up to the challenge of prepping. Don't look at it as too daunting, too confusing, too much effort. That's like just saying, well, I'll just roll over and die. Fuck it. No, they say, you know what? Right? We're going to fight back. We're going to be ready with a plan. We're going to be prepared. Right? And if they go to, say their plan is to bug out or go to a safe room, what do they have? Food, water. The safe room is their shelter. They're going to have proper clothing, proper equipment. Right? They're going to have all of that. They're going to be ready for whatever comes their way. And if I remember correctly, the first Gulf War, when Saddam Hussein was firing his Scuds, and supposedly they were tipped with gas, sarin gas, mustard gas, whatever gases they could scare us with by talking about them. So the Israelis just had their gas masks on. They're like, well, this is what we do. And they've been that way. Well, if that was 1991, they've been that way since at least 1991, 30 years ago. You know, they just are prepared. Talk about a nation that's ready for shit. We should take that lesson to heart. It doesn't mean you need to live in fear. It just means you need to be ready and have a plan. All right, now, other great lessons that we can learn from the Israelis. Enemies will attack any weakness. Right? They'll attack your home. They'll attack you as an individual. Right? And so you need to Sun Tzu your life. Right? If you're weak, you act strong. If you're strong, you act weak. Go read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. It's a great book, great on strategy. It'll help you deal with enemies. Right? But your enemies are going to attack any weakness. And if you know that about your enemy, then you always show what? You always show strength. Strength in numbers, strength in defense, right? Your house, your home, your bug out location. I'm talking about when shit hits the fan. You're going to want to appear, right? Like a fortress. You may not be, but you're going to want to put up all appearances because an enemy will attack any weakness. And at a time when it seems like you're weak. And Israel, the Israelis deal with that all the time. All the time, right? So they need to have police and paramilitary organizations with machine guns on the street. It's, right, the people in Israel, they don't feel threatened by their own police because the police are too busy looking for other people that are going to shoot back. Right? Someone walking down the street with a bag of groceries isn't a suspect the way they are here in the good old US of A. Right? But it's a great lesson to learn. When shit hits the fan, any point of weakness your enemies are going to look at and they're going to want to exploit. So, how do you plan for that? How do you train for that? Well, in all truth, if you've got your bug out location or your bunker, your house, get everything set up and go on the other side of the fence, if you can safely do it, and look at your house. Look at your bunker. Look at your entire facility, your defensive system. Does it look adequate? Right? Does it look like a porcupine on a bad day? Like, don't fuck with it. Right? That's what you're going to want. Right? I've said for a long time, you need to have sandbags. Fill them with dirt, fill them with rocks, fill them with sand, whatever you can get in those sandbags, and build what? Build a fortification. When people see a sandbagged fortification, they are going to believe in their head, holy shit, these people have sandbags, they are ready. Right? Their defenses are going to be well thought out and planned. It's going to scare them, in other words. They'll go and hit softer targets and leave you alone. All right. What else have we learned about the, what else can we learn from the Israelis? About shit hitting the fan, about being prepared. We know from what goes on over in Israel that your enemies will pretend to be friendly. Right? They're going to collect intelligence. They're going to do recon on you. They're going to be casing you out like criminals do. They're going to be looking for things that they want. Food, preps, guns, anything that would register in their head as wealthy, right? If there's one thing we've learned from the Israelis is that their enemies walk amongst them. And until they commit an act of terror or murder, they don't know they know they're their enemies, but they can't do anything about it. Right? When shit hits the fan, if someone's just walking down the street, you don't just shoot them because they're walking down the street. But the moment they turn on you and become your enemy, engage you, well, then you have to defend yourself. So we just need to understand that our enemies, they're going to pretend to be friendly. And they're going to do it for a specific reason. Now, I might say, is it a good idea if you see someone walking down the street to go out, as long as they're not carrying a gun, right? And let them know they're not welcome. That might be advisable. Don't come down this street again. You're not from here, you're not around here, you're very suspicious. If you come by again, you might get shot. Right, it's shit, it's the fan. You may have to do quite a bit of threatening out there. Right? Literally, threatening. Get the fuck out of here, you've got 5 seconds, or I'm going to shoot you. I'm not saying you're going to shoot them, I'm saying that might be an advisable threat to give them. To let them know that since they're not known, since they don't live there, they're unfriendly, and in shit it's the fan, unfriendly becomes an enemy very quickly. Right? So it's important to understand that lesson the Israelis have taught us, and that is that our enemies are amongst us, but they'll pretend to be friendly. Moving along, right? This is universal. It's universal across all time. It's universal in times of war, in times of peace. It's universal in terms of people who are thieves, as well as people at your own work, and that is that your enemies are opportunistic. Right, I'm talking about people at your work, co-workers. They're opportunistic. They'll stab you in the back if they get a chance. Right? They're just looking for an opportunity if they're your enemy. Right? Now, enemies are opportunistic. So they have guns. If you have guns, their opportunity to run you over, run over you, run over the top of you, murder you, however you want to phrase it, is lower. So we need to understand that enemies are opportunistic. They're looking for weakness. If they think you are weak, they're going to see that as an opportunity. If they see a hole, literal or figurative, in your defenses, they're going to see that as a weakness. And if they have the strength or the need, the desperation, they're going to try and exploit that. They're going to be opportunistic. It's the same way in Israel, and so we're learning a lesson. How are they opportunistic in Israel? Well, they know that, right, everyone can't just be jacked up and shot by the police. So you've got different cultural, religious groups moving back and forth into and out of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and the bad guys, the terrorists, they're going to be opportunistic. They're going to need to have some guns or some bombs. They're going to need to really have a good reason. They're going to need that big payoff, right? They don't just want to run into a supermarket and blow it up if there's only 2 people in there. They want to make a statement and blow a bunch of people up. So the opportunity, the reward has to be there, in other words. Opportunity, yes, but there has to be a payback, a reward. So they'll be looking for that. And while enemies are opportunistic, let's not give them too much fucking credit. They may be opportunistic, but that doesn't make them smart. So they may think there's a weakness in your system. You may go, look, no one's going to fuck with us. We've got people on the perimeter. We've got sandbag locations. We've got interlocking fields of fire. We've got comms, so we can alert everybody and we run into defense mode in 30 seconds. The enemy doesn't know all of that. Just because they're the enemy doesn't make them smart. They're just opportunistic. They may think, well, everyone's gone. We don't see anybody. Well, everyone's looking through little peepholes in their sandbag bunkers, right? Doesn't mean the enemy's smart enough to see them in there. They could be stupid enough to try anything. So let's not give them too much credit, but let's realize and recognize that, intelligent or not, our enemies are opportunistic. Now, this is a very important thing to learn from the Israelis. Enemies are anybody who are not on your side. When shit hits the fan, your enemies are everybody you don't know. Your enemies are anybody, right, who have come up against you in the past. And I'm not just talking about, like, with a gun. I'm talking about at a fucking baseball game with your kids. The parent on the other side, I'll fucking kill you if I ever catch you. When shit hits the fan, he just might remember who you are if he sees you. Yeah, he's that family from 3 blocks away, but he's in that 10-mile radius. As far as you know, he's your enemy. Anybody who's not on your side. And I know that's terrible to say. So that means strangers, transients, people who are just walking along. Yeah. You can't treat them like a friend. You can hope that they're friendly. You can be courteous. You can accept that they have the same amount of right to live as you do. But you don't trust them. See, when I say anyone who isn't on your side, anyone who isn't your friend is somebody that you can trust with your life. When shit hits the fan, that's what a friend is. Today, right now, fuck, I go down, I just met this guy down at the bar, we had a beer, hey, he's my friend now. When shit hits the fan, no. Anybody who's not on your side, you have to consider that there's the potential, they're an enemy of yours. You have to go like that, from thinking of them in terms of neutralness, right? That's just a person they just pulled a gun. I don't understand what's going on. Someone's going to get hurt. Enemy, right? That's what Shit Hits the Fan is about. It is not the Old West in the sense that everyone walks around and you just hope everyone gets along, and then there's the fight at the OK Corral. It's not like that, right? When shit hits the fan, right, people are your enemy. And it's terrible to say. It's terrible to say. Now, there may be a prepper group down the street this way and a prepper group down the street that way, and you're not all in the same prepper group, but you know that you have a lot of similarities, right? You're all preppers. You all have guns, you all have defensive perimeters, and you're looking out for each other. Maybe you meet, the leaders meet. I don't know. I can't tell you what's going to happen. And again, don't believe everything I say. Think about this for yourself. Consider it. Do your research. But that prepper group over there, 2 blocks away, right, they could send messages and you could share news and information, right? Got a white flag, a sock on a stick, and you just go talk to them, right? You could set up that type of rapport with them. Are they your enemy? Potentially, but probably not. Probably better and more beneficial for all parties if you're allies and you work together. But you do have to stop and sit back and go, right, if that person over there benefits from my death, that makes them the enemy. Right? Right? Meaning that person over there, a couple 100 yards, would love to see me dead. All they need then is the tools and the opportunity, and they'll make it happen because they would benefit by my death. In war, who's your enemy? Well, that guy over there. And he wants to live, and he benefits by my death. Pretty much the same thing. The Israelis have that going as well, right? They're surrounded by enemies to the east, to the west, to the north, and the south. You know, those countries over there do not like Israel for some of the reasons I've stated and many more. And Israelis do not like other people around them for all those reasons that they'd love to tell you about. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's a hotbed of stupidity over there, and I don't want a fucking thing to do with it because the Israelis have nuclear weapons. They claim they don't. The UN pretends they don't, but they really do. And they would love to use them, I'm sure, because they're fucking crazy, whacked out of their minds as much as the other people in that region of the world. Right? It's way too much power for people who have way too much of a need to kill each other. I'm a peace-loving kind of man. I just want to be left alone. Unfortunately, I'm surrounded by enemies domestically. Most of them are political, some of them are legal, some of them are social, but they're my enemies because they would benefit by me being destroyed, literally or figuratively. Okay, now this is important, and the Israelis teach it to us. I've talked a lot about what people have is a need and an opportunity, and they're going to get you, especially when shit hits the fan. But it's important to note also that enemies are not always driven by that. They can be driven by idealism. And the situation we're in right now in the United States of America is our enemies, domestic, are driven by idealism. I'm talking about Antifa, American communists, all right, and we've got people in office now. We've got that one Muslim lady, she's in trouble for being anti-Semitic. AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's anti-Semitic, right? Why would you get to that kind of office and then continue to spiel out of your lips, right, what you know other people are going to object to? Well, the reason is they think that they're all powerful now that they've been elected. And their idealism is so strong that it outweighs any other form of logic or reason or good sense. Right? They want to be idealistic, meaning they'll do whatever they want when they have the power. When shit hits the fan, your enemies are going to be driven by hunger and thirst, fear, revenge, but also idealism. If a politician today is stupid enough to come out and spiel a bunch of crap about how they hate Jews and Jews should be wiped off the face of the earth, or whatever it is they have to say about the Jews, right? Why would you do that knowing, right, that you're going to be thought of as reprehensible and you're a bad person, right? Morally, you shouldn't be hating anyone like that, but politically, certainly not the Jewish people or the Israelis. But that's how strongly people like AOC and that lady, and I haven't even bothered learning her name because she just can't stand her. Anyways, they're driven by idealism. Now, they'll benefit by your death, but they'll also be happy about your death. They consider us the enemy right now. They consider us the enemy right now. Imagine how strong their idealism will drive them to want to kill you when shit hits the fan. I've talked about it numerous times. Say you've got a bunch of college communists and they live 5 blocks over. College is 10 blocks over. You can count on them working themselves into a frenzy, an idealistic frenzy of hatred. And they're going to say, anybody who's a right-winger, a prepper, a hunter, a Republican, right, a conservative, they're the enemy, and it's their fault, and everything is their fault. And so we have a moral obligation from our immoral philosophical perspective as communists to go kill everybody, right? They're going to look for opportunities. They're going to have other needs like the need for food and water, but they're going to be driven strongly by their idealism. And that's what Israel is facing. Their enemies hate them on an idealistic religious level as much as they hate them for everything else. As preppers, we can learn a lot from Israel and what's going on over there, right? And not to talk about this to scare you or to upset you, but to be realistic and to look for examples we can learn from today rather than waiting for shit to hit the fan and have to learn them on our own, right? I don't want somebody to get shot that I know that's part of my group because everyone else wasn't aware that that could happen, right? That person walking down the street, well, they looked harmless, but then they made a move, and by the time we reacted, they shot somebody. I don't want anyone to get shot, right? That's why I said it's important to be prepared and have a plan. And using the Israelis, learning from their examples is far better than learning for ourselves, because a lot of time education doesn't come freely. There's a price to pay. When shit hits the fan, it's going to be hard enough and expensive enough in terms of time, energy, and psychological consideration, right? Having to deal with all the shit out there, and top that, add mistakes to it. So minimizing mistakes, being prepared, right? Because chance favors the prepared mind. Go to thepreparedmind.club to take a look at what we have. We're going to be introducing some new vendors there, more prepping items. We're always trying to do stuff over there. It may not look like it, but behind the scenes, we're trying to get things done. And speaking of behind the scenes, it's just difficult to do. There's a lot of work that goes on there. We're facing a lot of obstacles. I know I do all the time. Anyways, one last thing. Once you're done at the preparedmind.club, Saturday, high noon, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So that would be 3 o'clock Eastern Time. We're going to do a live broadcast, and I'll be talking anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on how my voice holds up and how long I end up jabbering on about each subject. So send in your questions, send in your comments, send in your perspectives, and I'll shoot you straight from the hip what I think about stuff. And you guys have great questions. I always enjoy them. So send them on into Jolene. She'll gather them, put them together, and then we'll start going at high noon on Saturday. So until then, you guys be cool. Right? I'll get out the weekly wrap-up, and then I'll see you high noon Saturday. Until then, right? Semper Fi, Godspeed.